this is our systems group panel, and well, Matthew does also a lot of systems. Well, it's systems and systems related. And Orlando here, he is from the university libraries, but he's almost as critical to our team as anyone else in the team. So Orlando and I together, we co-manage all of our storage systems that provide home directories and project space for all of our users at CARC, but also for everyone who uses any university library resources, including any virtual infrastructure, libraries cloud or CARC cloud. All of that is managed by the two of us. So he's our addition to the team. And then we have Troy on the other side of the screen. We have Jose on this side of the screen. And I want to start with our panel and Troy. So the first question is for you. What does our authentication system looks like at CARC? Where do we struggle like today? And as Matthew showed us in his demo, you are already in beta testing the future for how we are handling things. So now I hear Matthew say that this is going to be recorded on YouTube. So I guess be careful.
Yeah, I won't. I'll try not to reveal anything that's too operationally sensitive. Yeah, as Hussein said, I'm Troy. I am an HPC systems specialist. So yeah, I handle a lot of things kind of behind the scenes at CARC. Although I've recognized a lot of faces here with names and such of people that I've interacted with on tickets and stuff. Um, Regarding our authentication, on the back end, we use FreeIPA, which is essentially just the Linux version of Active Directory. Um, it is architecturally very similar, does everything that Active Directory does, except for GPOs, I think is the main thing that FreeIPA doesn't cover. Um, but for the most part, people won't be interacting with that on the user-facing level. They'll be interacting with our online web services like Moki and Coldfront. Um, we use Moki in particular to do any sort of self-service account creation or password resets. We're looking towards things like two-factor authentication. Um, that's going to be a big compliance concern coming up. MFA is unfortunately super critical in securing modern systems these days. It's annoying, but it's the direction the world's heading in. Um, so once that's in place, people will be uploading their 2FA keys through that same portal, same way they already create their initial account, same way they already change their own passwords. Um, yeah, so that is all. I guess that's all really. We expect to be working on 2FA in the coming months. Um, Again, we're gonna try and roll that out as seamlessly as possible, but there may be some hiccups in that process. As far as what's challenging about doing authentication, I'd say that it's, as with many things in our field, it's catching up with technical debt and trying to modernize. CARC as a center has been around for decades at this point, and we have active users currently that have been using our systems for 20 years. So it's in the future we'd also like to allow people to use their just regular UNM credentials to log into our systems. But we have to find a way to move forward doing that while also still supporting our legacy users that want to use the same CARC credentials they've been using for 2 decades. Um, so yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Troy. And my next question goes to Jose, who manages all of our systems and data center hardware. So, Jose, what is the most challenging incident that you recently had to deal with at the data center level?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Sanchez, and I'm gonna go back to the story of the snow day in a few minutes, but that's pretty much my incident that we had. But I oversee all the hardware, including the putting them together, all the clusters, and oversees the cooling system and then the cooling system. So one of the challenging incidents that I had, it was just part of it with the snow. We have monitoring systems that actually alert us, all of us, when there's something critical happening in the machine room. And what happened that day, it was a thing like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it started snowing about a few inches, 3 or 4 inches. And I tried to contact Hussein that night, but I wasn't getting to anybody, so I decided just to drive myself all the way to the center. And when I got there, I had to, on the way there, I was trying to find a way to troubleshoot from what the incidents was, what the monitoring was telling me. So when I got there, the problem that we had, it was that we lost one of the power lines. That we usually have 3 lines coming in, voltage switches. All the machines runs at 208 volts. And losing one, everything was down to 120. Is basically what any any outlets in the building will use. And when I went in there, I looked at the ACs. The half of the ACs were running. Basically, the fans were just blowing, and it was not cooling at all. So having so much, all the jobs, I guess, they went idle that night because all the cluster itself is switched from 208 to 120, and including all the storage, including the networking devices, everything was complaining. Even we have the two UPSs. The two UPSs were complaining that they were running not on low battery, but also just on a 120 volts. It was not getting any power. So at that time, I had to start turning it off all the compute nodes because um, having the um, losing power from 208 to 120, we may start losing power supplies, but not just the power supply, the compute nodes, because of the lack of power. The then we the problem was so big that it actually was triggered right outside of the generator. So I couldn't do pretty much too much basically, but it's like I said, turning down all the compute nodes, get the head nodes, at least with the list of a bit of power that we had, just to have the head nodes running, all the storage. But 30 minutes later, we started having power flickers. And at that point, I just decided to, that was at 6 o'clock in the morning. I got hold of Zane and Troy, and then we just decided to bring the entire center down. We started shutting down all the head nodes, we left just the networking running, the main CARC network, but everything else was down. We contact also Orlando. Orlando was able to shut down all our home directories, scratch directories, everything was down in there. And the power was not resolved after 3 days. We were without power for 2 days. And then the day that there was PNM, the day they're supposed to turn it on, they didn't. So we had to make a few calls just to get everything back up and running. So it was a big challenge. Also, it was I mean, we had, like I said, we had to plan all of this just to all of us and just get everything to it and wait until PNM restore power so we can start charging um, the UPSs first and then bring everything back up. So all it was about a week. It took us all the process to get about a week, and then start, after that we get the handhelds up, get all the storage up and running. We wait for a few hours to make sure that we don't have no data lost. Make sure that all the data arrays are running, and then we started turning all the compute nodes and look at services and see how much damage we had. We were lucky that we didn't lost anything except for a few power supplies. So that was it. That was the most challenging thing that I had to face at CARC.
I just want to add that I've been around CARC for a while, and it's probably not obvious from the end user point of view, but there are things that happen, like snow and losing power lines, and I'm always amazed. As far as I know, we've never lost data, even on the systems that we say they're not backed up, their best effort. Jose somehow and Hussein somehow managed to recreate these systems, and they spend hours doing it. So it was down for a few days, but then as Jose was saying, it takes days more to slowly bring the systems back up, rebuild things that may have gotten corrupted, and make sure everything works perfectly when it comes back.
Yeah. So thank you, Jose and Matthew. So during my career, 13 years at CARC, we only went fully offline, that machine room was shut down twice. And we have two UPSs. They provide about 300 kVA between both of them, and we load balance all of our racks. So what happens is within 10 minutes of a power outage is we make the decision to pull the plug on all compute nodes. So this way, all compute nodes go down. So we had an incident, it's a funny incident last year, where a bird hit a power line outside the center and took the entire block down. So we were scrambling in the morning. I think Annalise, who worked for us as a technical person before, she was the first to be in the machine room. And then the whole team started gathering, and I had to make the decision and discuss with Troy how many clusters are we going to kill. And the decision was okay, pull the plug on all the nodes, because storage systems and virtual cloud systems are so hard to shut down. So think about the university libraries cloud, they have about 130 servers. So just going in and shutting down all of these services without having a clear path as what comes next, that's a decision that we don't want to make. Same thing for our virtual things.
We don't actually typically do that. What we'll do is we'll migrate all of that virtual infrastructure from one data center to another data center.
So, and what he means is that we use CARC as our main data center site for CARC cloud, and then the library uses us as a backup site. And then we back up to Central IT's data center near the hospital, and that's where they run their production as a library. Yes.
How big was your?
It was just a bird. We did not see it. One of our students. So most likely a pigeon or something like that. And yeah, so after shutting down these things, we keep the head nodes running just in case, because it takes longer time. We don't want to lose the jobs and all of these things. We keep the storage running. Now the batteries, because we had to test it twice, the batteries can last us about 3 hours and a half. So, but then a shutdown procedure on a storage system can take about an hour to an hour and a half to shut it down clean. And the problem is, the storage system that we have, the NetApp, our home directories and project space, has been spinning since 2016. Never turned off except twice. Now, when that disk is spinning all of this time and you shut it down all of a sudden, or if you lose power all of a sudden, it might not come back. But luckily, we did not lose any disk or data in that case, which is just amazing. Now, from there, I'm gonna move to Orlando. So how do you, CARC and libraries, how do we handle backups for our storage in general? And how do you keep an eye on it?
Well, there are commonalities and there are differences between these sites. Commonalities are we have snapshots, so most of the partitions that we have on there, if you're storing data, there's a snapshot that goes back, depending on how we have it set. And the way I typically set it up is this week, so I can go back a week just on that data and pull something out. Then we have snap mirrors, which copy the data from one data center to another data center. So as he said, we have a backup. We back up our stuff over at CARC. He backs up his stuff over at CIP. So our data is essentially duplicated on each site. That happens usually every 24 hours, and we maintain that for, I don't know how long Hussein maintains it. I maintain it for about a month.
So I carve more space of the CARC storage. So I maintain 4 to 5 months of data. So in case of a ransom attack or something like this, because we are not supposed to pay for it or negotiate. So, but if you need to recover, and this data is so precious, like this is where all of the users' final data is stored. So like today, we have 4 months of snapshots. And it's not just that easy. So what happens is, say you're under attack, you think a system is compromised, you have to lock down everything. And then you will go back to your most recent backup that you think is clean. And you would do a restore in a locked environment. If that restore is clean, then you can make it available to the user. We will lose maybe a month of data or 2 weeks, it depends. If that is still infected, then you would want to go back more in time until you find a clean copy or you're out of luck. So we have some plans. We luckily did not get tested in real life.
The library also has other layered backup solutions. We have for some data that we have, we back it up to another storage system, completely separate storage system, which currently is essentially out of space. So I'm hoping I've just tried to buy a bunch of new disks for it so I can upgrade it, but that's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before I get the disks.
Yeah, and our shared system with the libraries is 2.4 petabytes usable space. So it's 2,400 terabytes. And the backups that Orlando is running on his site is about 7 petabytes, something like that.
No, not that big. Not nearly that big.
With compression and everything, like if you expand.
I don't think, no, the backups are you talking about my backups to your site?
No. Your backup system at the back end.
Oh, no, the backup system on the back end is small. It's really small. Okay, it doesn't fit the.
So moving next to JJ. Thank you, Orlando. So JJ, what does a typical help ticket look like, and what is the process from like receiving it to resolving?
So if you've used CARC support before, you open a ticket via email, or send an email to carchelp@unm.edu, or if you're in the College of Arts and Sciences, send an email to researchtech@unm.edu. The ticket comes into our system. We usually have a person assigned to keep an eye on the new tickets coming in. We want to answer your tickets as quickly as possible. We don't want to let them sit there for too long. There are different levels of tickets, of course. If I was just to kind of put them into 4 different categories. First category would be just user accounts and CodeFront project related items. So renewing your project, asking for cluster allocations, asking for new storage, all of these sort of related issues. all would come under the first category of just user account management and project account management. The second category, I would say, especially in the last year, has been storage management. So, you might have come across it yourselves. You have certain storage allocations under your user account, and you have certain storage allocations under your project account. And of course, the amount of data that people are working with has kind of just exploded. So people, have been having issues with, say, a issue of quota, of 1 terabyte for a project where they would like perhaps 5 terabytes. So the good news is that for anybody who's signed up to use Easily, and you have a project on Easily, you can get a project storage quota of 5 terabytes. And that 5 terabytes is on an SSD, so it's very, very quick for read and write. If you're on Hopper, we still use the BGFS, so that's like a spinning disks. Not that it's much slower, but you usually only have a 1 terabyte project space on that. The third category would be software installation. So usually, if that kind of ticket comes in, I'm going to pass it over to Troy or Matthew or Beckett. It might be someone looking to install something in their Conda environment, or it might be, if it's software that might be used by more than your team, it might be something we might compile and load as a module on the clusters itself. So that's when we kind of leave it over to Matthew and Troy to decide where's the best place for the software to sit. Is it paid? Is it paid software? So do we have to put it into a special group, whereas people have to pay to use it? And then the final category would be basically people having issues running their scripts on the cluster, like SBatch scripts, and they need expertise and wondering, hey, have I set this up correctly? Am I asking for the right resources? And with that, we can not just like help with the ticket. Matthew holds office hours, so you can get one-to-one help. And if you want to set up something that you're not quite sure how to go about it, especially we have, I suppose, users who are not in the computer science domain. Like be looking at, especially people who are coming in from the biology department, maybe don't have computer science background, but they need to do this computation. And so we're set up with the office hours, and we can help you out with that. That's what it.
Thank you. So yeah, usually we run an average of about maybe 40 tickets in our systems that are open at any time. So we're dealing with so many users at the same time. Sometimes it's multiple tickets from the same user, or just like different users. Now we are not like enterprise IT, where our mission, or like we evaluate our staff performance based on how many tickets you handle. Because for us, some tickets can be a 6 months project, while other tickets can be a 5-minute thing. In enterprise IT, about 70% of their help tickets are changing passwords. For us, it's way much less. Every now and then we get it, and now with ColdFront and other systems that we have, it's easier, right?
It used to be half the meetings I had and half the tickets were, can I change my password? And after we deployed Moki, so it's self-service, that went to practically zero, which is great because I can focus on the actual research.
Okay, so my next is to Sumaya. And on intake interviews with researchers, what do you look for in the first 10 minutes of that meeting or interview when you're listening to?
Yeah, so when you meet with a researcher for the first time, generally, you try to just understand what they're working on. So the research topic or the problem they're trying to solve. And this is important because, this heavily determines the computing environment that you suggest they use. But in general, it's also very helpful to understand any constraints they have, deadlines they're trying to meet, and also just how technical they are, how much they understand, because we support researchers who maintain their own servers, do everything on their own servers, and they need minimal help from us. But we also have researchers who don't know how to do these things, so they want us to maintain, their servers. So it's very important to understand, how technical they are, and just a general understanding of where they are. So did they already start? Do they have a server? Do they need to buy a new server? But yeah, it's just for the first 10 minutes, you focused on understanding what they're working on so that you know what to suggest to them.
Because at the end, it's about trust. So like once you build trust, most of the time we find a way to resolve the research problem itself. So thank you. Matthew, how do you turn a help ticket or a problem to training and improvement to our systems?
Yeah, it's a really good question because happily we are seeing a lot more users and a lot more research, which means the demands on us goes up. That's what we want to see. But it means that we have to be smarter about not redoing the same task over and over and over again. So I've been creating these video tutorials over the last several years and workshop slides, etc. So after a while, you sort of see a pattern of questions, and you're able to say, okay, let's talk about this, and then here are resources you can go. And it's me, on a recording saying the same thing I've been saying, to many people over many meetings. So that's super useful. But it only has to be part of the story, right? Because the rest of the story, every individual researcher that comes has a different problem, really. And so there has to be a nice balance between not just saying, look, here's a canned answer, but helping them where their needs are unique, and also pointing them to resources where they can learn how to use the clusters and resources in the software better going forwards.
And yeah, like it's like a two-way communication line where Matthew is observing what's happening on our systems. He comes back and he says, hey, there is a way to improve this. What can you improve this? And then it goes back from there to Troy and Jose, to me if it's storage, and we start discussing all of that. It comes back to Matthew to review it. And we survive, right?
Yeah, so the team is great. I feel guilty sometimes because I'm also a user and I'm also dealing with users. So I'm always the canary in the coal mine saying, this might be broken, this might be different. And just, I feel guilty every time I reach out to Troy, which I do it feels like 10 times a day saying, oh, can you tweak this? Can you change that? It's a little bit different, but he's, he works and is very happy to make the center better. It's good.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I like about having Matthew, because he's also a user and interacting directly with the user. So we always end up catching problems very early. There is a bunch of users who are so advanced. So when I see their name in the help ticket system, I'm like, oh, there is a disaster. Or sometimes they come to you with a solution. So like, okay, yeah, we had a problem. So I'm gonna go back to Troy on what is the hardest trade-off for you as an HPC engineer? So between security, usability, and performance, how do you balance all of those?
Yeah, I think there's one of those that's not like the other. I think our users care a lot about usability. I think they care a lot about performance, and I don't think they care at all about security. Um, so I think it's clear which one of those tends to suffer the most. Um, yeah, all of what we do is balancing usability and performance with security. Just recently, for instance, I had a ticket come in where somebody very, very politely and kindly and knowledgeably asked for us to turn on a particular kernel feature. I didn't know a ton about it, so I went and looked it up. It's called U IOU ring, and I found that it's very, very strong performance-wise for parallel IO, but there are a ton of security concerns surrounding it. It's been at the heart of a bunch of CVEs lately in the past few years. So not only responsible for direct exploits, but also it enables some um, software analysis capabilities. It lets you kind of hide things that would normally be visible in user space. Um, so unfortunately, I had to, turn it down. I found that, for instance, Google keeps it disabled on all of their systems internally because of these security concerns. And they're obviously a company that's going to do basically whatever they can to eke out every last bit of performance if they can, if the trade-off is worth it. So yeah, I'd say security is the one that often is hardest to bring to the forefront, especially because it's the one that pulls against usability and it pulls against performance. Of course, it's necessary, but that's how it goes.
Someone in this room told me before that researchers would hide a dead body, like literally, if they could, to get away and meet their deadlines and do their research.
I'm not helping.
So, and lastly, I would like to introduce one of our guests who are on the call. So we have Tyson here. And Tyson has been a collaborator with UNN for over, I would say, a year and a half through the Southwest Cacti and Cyberse. He has some collaborations already with HSC, helping them meet compliance.
For those of you that missed my visit, I've come out twice now, and maybe Hussein has access to some of those recordings for those talks, and welcome to share those.
I guess that concludes our panel.
Well, are there any questions for
Yes,
Tyson? Because now's your chance.
questions.
Or for anybody else on the panel.
Yes. No question.
I guess you picked all the right questions.
Everybody's just typing all their questions into the ticket system right now.
Like 200 tickets. So yeah, we can put the posters up. I know we kind of started late, so we couldn't put the posters, especially they were on the other corners, like the room. All right, I think that's it. So we have some snacks, some coffee. You can put the posters. You want to chat? We are here.
And I really encourage everyone to go take a look at the posters. These are, people who are students who are running a CARC and showing off the results they have. And they've probably been waiting for 6 hours now to show off their posters. So if you can stick around, please do.
That's how we keep them.
Thanks for your time, everybody.